Hello everybody and welcome back to another video on the channel. It's been a little while since my last upload and it has been a very long while since my last AFL upload. With the AFL season back in just over a month, I thought why not get back into making some footy content. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it. Okay, change of lighting. Also, if I'm looking a bit disheveled, it's probably because I'm a bit sunburnt on the face, but whatever. So here I've got 22 key forwards. All of these players have played during the 2000s. All of them debuted in 2000 or after 2000. So all modern day key forwards. There's 22 of them. So I guess if I wanted to build an entire team with only key forwards, then these are the 22 I would pick. If I've missed a couple, then yeah, that's my mistake. I feel like I've got most of the main ones that have kicked at least around 250, 300 goals, and were pretty good players in their prime. So let's starting things off with Travis Cloke here. The Travis Cloke I will be putting in, I will say, very talented for now. I will shuffle things around as the tier list goes on. But yeah, I think Travis Cloke, he was a very good player for the Magpies, kicked a tad under 500 goals from memory. Had a few pretty good seasons throughout the early to mid 2010s. Never won a Coleman medal or anything, but was sort of up around that mark for a little while. So yeah, I'll say very talented. Drew Petrie, pretty similar. I think he finished his career on a similar amount of goals to Travis Cloke. Yeah, he was the best Kangaroos full forward for a while there. And yeah, very good. Arguably probably most well known for that Frank the Tank celebration he did in the elimination final against Essendon. Matthew Pavlich, 700 goals, played parts of his career in the back line. I'm going to put him for now in generational player. I think that he was, yeah, a superstar for Fremantle. He's been by far the best forward throughout their career. Arguably, maybe behind Nat Fyfe, probably their best ever player. So yeah, I think that Matthew Pavlich, for now, is definitely going to stay in this generational player tier. Jeremy Cameron I'm going to put him as another generational player. He hasn't quite kicked as many goals as some of the other players we'll see later on in this list that I'll probably put in this tier. But he does have a bit of his career left to go. I'd say at least 3 or 4 years. And actually now that Franklin's retired, I think he has the highest average goals per game of any player in the league. So yeah, he's a very good player. And he's a bit more of like a centre-half forward, get up the ground. In 2022, I think he was probably the best player in the competition, even though he didn't quite win the Coleman medal. He just missed out on that. But I think the work he did up the ground was just exceptional. He was like much less of a stay-at-home full forward and more of a like work up the ground, work back, get marks up the ground, and then sprint back towards goal and work your opponent over type player. And he started off 2023 easily the best player in the competition, tailed off a bit at the end there, but yeah, I think Jeremy Cameron, generational talent. Charlie Dixon, I'm going to be putting in, yeah, I don't think he's quite as good as Travis Cloke or Drew Petrie. I don't believe he's ever had a 50-goal season, although in 2020 he was second in the Coleman medal. And that was a year with shortened games, and it was a shortened season as well. So I think he would have easily kicked 50, 60 goals in that season had it been a full season. But yeah, he's just kind of been a handy player for both Gold Coast and Port Adelaide. Has flashes of brilliance, is maybe a little bit inconsistent. But yeah, I think he's quite a decent player. Kurt Tippett, probably another handy player. I think I'd maybe put him, he played a bit in the ruck as well. I'll put him in handy player. In his prime at the Crows, he kicked like 50 goals in a season. Also chopped out in the ruck as well. So yeah, he had a lot of potential to be very good. Injuries and just poor form towards the end of his career just kind of led it to be it was a bit of an underwhelming career. I think that's the right word to use. Joe Danaher, yeah, I'll probably put him ahead of these two players in handy player, but I don't think he's had a couple of really good seasons. Had he not been affected by injury, then potentially I'd put him maybe a tier or two higher. But for now, he's got like 300, 400 goals. I think it's about 350, something around that mark, from memory. Yeah, he's had a couple of really good seasons. Had a lot of years wiped away by injury as well. So, because he's been a bit inconsistent, yeah, I'll put him down in handy player for now. I might bump him up though. Jared Waite. Oh, he was a pretty good player for Carlton and then North Melbourne. I'll put him in handy player as well. Yeah, I feel like I'm definitely going to put some of these players up when I reshuffle at the end. But for now, yeah, Jared Waite's going in handy player. Same with probably Quinton Lynch here. Was the Eagles' leading goal scorer for a couple of seasons back in 2006, 2007. Kicked 50, 60 goals in both of those seasons, but other than that, didn't do a whole lot. Didn't have quite as long of a career as some of these other players. So yeah, I'll put him in handy player. I think that's fair. Jack Darling, 500 goals, recently hit that milestone. Extremely good or very talented. I'll put him in very talented for now. Same with probably Jack Gunston, I don't think he's quite at 500 goals. He's at like 400, in the high 400s, I believe. Gunston, been a very good player for Hawthorn for a long time. He was a pivotal part of their premiership success through the early mid-2000s when they had that three-peat. And Darling's been a very good player as well. 500 goals, you have to be a pretty good player to kick 500 goals, especially in the modern game. Jack Revolt, generational talent. I'm going to put him below these two. I think Jeremy Cameron, even though he hasn't probably hasn't quite got the same resume as Jack Revolt, I believe that he's probably going to end up a slightly better player by the end of his career. But yeah, Jack Revolt, obviously nearly 800 goals, not quite. He's just a little bit behind Matthew Richardson on the Tigers' all-time leading goal scorer. But yeah, extremely talented player. Jay Schultz, probably going in handy player as well. Sort of struggled to break out at Richmond, then went to Port Adelaide, had a few really good seasons, kicked like 60 goals, 66 I think from memory in 2014, and was a contender for the Coleman Medal that year. Other than that, didn't do a whole lot, but yeah, 330 odd goals is still a solid career. Jared Ruffhead, well, this extremely good tier is feeling a little bit lonely. I don't think he was a generational player, but kicked 600, was it 500 or 600 goals? So yeah, he was probably the second best forward behind Franklin in that unstoppable dominant era for Hawthorn. And yeah, I believe that he is an exceptional talent. Jonathan Brown, he only just qualified for this list, debuted in 2000, played up into 2014, and he didn't quite kick as many goals as some of these guys, and generational player, but I feel like he deserves it. He was a very courageous, very talented player, centre half forward, so he wasn't one of those players who just sat in the goal square, sat in the forward 50 arc and just waited for the ball to be given to him. He got up the ground, took big contested marks, big courageous pack marks, worked back towards goal, kicked bags, won a Coleman Medal. Yeah, I believe he deserves to be in the second highest tier. Franklin now, well, 1,066 goals. He has to go on the top tier. I don't think there's any arguments to be made otherwise there. He is easily the best forward, probably the best player. No, I'll say Gary Ablett's better than him, I believe, in my opinion anyway. I'd say second best player of the 21st century behind Ablett. But yeah, 1,066 goals in the modern game, which is so defensive, is just ridiculous. Over 350 games. A goals per game average of over 3 is there. It's just absolutely ridiculous in this modern defensive game. Nick Riewoldt kicked a tick over 700 goals. I'd rate him higher than Jack Riewoldt, so he's going to go in the generational player tier as well. Yeah, I believe that him, along with Matthew Pavlich, were probably two of the best centre-half forwards of this 2000s, 2010s era. Taylor Walker, I think, hasn't won a Coleman medal, only won All-Australian selection, but very consistent over a number of years. Almost won a Coleman medal last year, kicked close to 80 goals. I'll put him in extremely... yeah, he's close to 600 goals. He's the Adelaide Crows all-time leading goal scorer. I'll put him in extremely good. I probably do rate him a bit higher than Jack Darling and Jack Gunston. Tom Hawkins, another generational talent. I'd rate him higher than Jack Riewoldt just. Even if he hasn't kicked as many goals, I think his consistency over many years is just something to be commended. Like 10 or 11 times in a row, he was Geelong's leading goal scorer, which is, yeah, that's incredible, really. Tom Lynch, not quite 500 goals, had some injury problems. I wouldn't probably rate him as high as Tex Walker because hasn't been as consistent. But at his prime, he was one of the best forwards in the competition. Still has potential to be. I'll put him in very talented for now, I reckon. For now, I'll put him in that tier. Maybe I'll move him up. Josh Kennedy, another generational talent. Yeah, Eagles leading goal scorer, over 700 goals in his career. Just incredible numbers. He's kicked 10 goals on like a few occasions. There's only been a few players in the modern game to kick 10 goals on multiple occasions. Jack Riewoldt is another one. Him, Josh Kennedy, Franklin did it a couple times. Kennedy and Riewoldt, I believe, did it a few times. They both had like an 11-goal game and then a couple of 10-goal games. So yeah, that's incredibly impressive. And the final player on the list, Ben Brown, was a superstar of the competition at one stage. Three seasons in a row where he kicked over 60 goals and finished second or third in the Coleman medal tally. But hasn't had a really consistent career, and as of late hasn't been as good. He only really had those 3 spectacular seasons. Other than that, he is just an alright player. He's been in and out of the side for Melbourne as of late through injury and poor form. So yeah, I'll probably have to put him in handy player. So there's the tier list. Do I want to make any shufflings around? Do I want to put Jack Darling and Jack Gunston? I'll put Jack Darling up into extremely good because he's played second fiddle to Josh Kennedy, who's obviously done the bulk of the goal scoring for the Eagles over the years. So naturally, he was just not going to score as many goals with someone as talented as Kennedy in the same team. So to still score over 500 goals is pretty impressive. Yeah, I feel like 500 goals should probably be the benchmark for extremely good, among other factors. Jack Gunston, I don't think he quite scored 500 goals yet. I think he's like high 400s. But anyway, that'll wrap up this tier list. That'll wrap up this video. Let me know what you thought of this idea of ranking, modern players of certain positions. I might do it with like small forwards and midfielders, maybe even defenders as well. So yeah, if you did enjoy the video, please leave a like and subscribe. Let me know what you thought of my list, what changes you would make, what you thought I got right and wrong. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.